Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for turning up. I do appreciate it, and I hope the week's gone well. There's tremendous amounts of traffic all around Nairobi, and we've got to use all our street smarts to get around the city at the moment. Macro thoughts, I think a Chinese devaluation is now firmly on the cards, and I think that's what's really been roiling the FX markets in particular. Over the last few sessions, you've seen a dollar sell-off, but I think that's on the basis that a devaluation will mean an increase in all the currencies around the globe versus the Yuan. Home thoughts, I was listening to Amy Winehouse, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Beautiful song. Then I went back to Moby Dick. It is not down on any map, true places never are, and that made me think. Human madness is oftentimes a cunning and most feline thing. When you think it fled, it may have, but become transfigured into some still subtler form. Political reflection, Zika, Spanish officials confirm pregnant woman in Catalonia infected with virus. Viruses are dangerous, as I've said when I was talking about the Ebola virus, exactly because they exhibit non-linear and exponential characteristics. Russia says Turkey may be planning Syria invasion. Russian Defense Ministry sees a growing number of signs of hidden preparation of the Turkish armed forces for active actions on the territory of Syria. There are reasonable grounds to suspect Turkey of preparing for action. Even a dangerous precedent, Turkey on Wednesday banned Russian military planes from carrying out inspections of its territory allowed under the Open Skies Accord. The Defense Ministry said Russia regards this decision as an attempt by Turkey to hide illegal military activity near the Syrian border, it said. My conclusions are Erdogan likes to take risk, and I wonder what message Prime Minister Davutoglu was delivering from Erdogan to King Salman when he met him, I think on January the 31st in Riyadh. Saudi Arabia, we learned overnight, is ready to send ground troops to fight IS in Syria if US-led coalition agrees. And I thought to myself this morning, the overreach will have overreached if that is what happens. Syrian army sees Aleppo encircled soon. Rebels hope for more weapons, they're not going to get it. And as I said in October 2015, and I think the interesting point to make is that Putin has delivered in a big way for Assad. As I said on October 2015, last year, Putin fancies himself the flycatcher and Syria the fly trap. That took me to Shakespeare's flies to wanton boys are we to the gods, and I thought to myself, are the rebels to Putin? Gloucester, last night's storm I such a fellow saw, which made me think a man a worm. My son came then into my mind, and yet my mind was then scarce friends with him. I have heard more since. As flies to wanton boys are we to the gods, they kill us for their sport. According to Holger, excluding Monaco, Japan has the highest median age of 46.5 compared to 37.8 for the USA and 36.8 for China. My piece over the weekend was currency puzzles and negative interest rates. Have a look at this that Holger posted of the negative rate world out there. Jamie Reuters dollar down 3.3% so far this week. Its biggest weekly fall since May 2009. And there are many explanations. Some of them are coalescing around the thought that the Fed won't be raising rates anytime soon. And that sort of forward curve of 4 quarter-point hikes is just simply not going to happen. But I think it's more about the possibility of China devaluing and positioning for that. Chinese foreign reserves head for a record drop on yuan defense. The central bank will say Monday that the currency hoard fell by $18 billion to $3.2 trillion in January, according to economists. That would exceed a record $108 billion decline in December. Policymakers are burning through their billions of dollars to hold up a weakening currency and flagging growth, and basically there's been $1 trillion, can you believe that, in capital flows out this year. 24th of August, I said China's roiling the markets. I quoted an IMF official who said it's totally premature to speak of a crisis in China. I said, in my experience, when policymakers make these kinds of pronouncements, it is exactly because there is a crisis. The CEO of Glencore said about that time, at the moment, none of us can read China. And I said, I can, it's going to get a lot worse, I'm afraid. And I said, the further problem is that no one believes the data either. This moment when the market stops suspending its disbelief is seriously a dangerous one for policymakers, I said. Let me put up a photograph of the Chinese President Xi Jinping standing up in a sedan at a military parade. 31st of August, I said China's volatility causing influenza across Africa. I quoted Herman Melville's Moby Dick, which is a story about the monomaniacal quest of Ahab, captain of the whaler Pequod, for revenge on Moby Dick, white whale which on a previous voyage destroyed Ahab's ship and severed his leg at the knee. That quote struck me. It's not down on any map. True places never are. And I was talking about the Shanghai Composite, and I said it doesn't need an introduction. The global markets are watching Shanghai every single morning. And then on the 7th of September, I spoke about how China must fix its economy despite the military show. And I said, as Nassim Taleb points out, debt increases tail risk, and this applies to so many places right now. Whether it's personal, corporate, or governmental, a rise in debt, he warns, implies nothing less than a rise in the risk of catastrophe. Last weekend, in my piece about negative interest rates, I was talking about China has been ringing alarm bells all over the financial markets. I said last Tuesday, Wang Boan, the head of the National Bureau of Statistics, was detained in a graft investigation on August 24 last year. I said the further problem is that no one believes the data either. This moment when the market stops suspending its disbelief is seriously a dangerous one for policymakers. Simply no one outside the Chinese Communist Party's echo chamber believes the official Chinese GDP data. Chinese electricity consumption, for example, only rose 0.5% year on year at 2014-2015. And that does not confirm a GDP rate of just below 7. I'm saying that George Soros has taken out a very, very big bet that it's going to devalue, and I think he's correct. Soros's war on the renminbi and the Hong Kong dollar cannot possibly succeed. About this there can be no doubt. This was in the People's Daily, declaring war on China's currency, ha ha. I think he's going to absolutely skin them alive. I put up a photograph of Wang Boan, and this goes back to no one believing the data. A photograph of Stanley Druckenmiller with George Soros in the background. They were the two who took the Bank of England for a lot of cash. And Druckenmiller says, as a macro investor, my job for 30 years was to anticipate changes in the economic trends that were not expected by others and therefore not yet reflected in securities prices. And I think clearly they feel that about the Chinese one. China is only a few months from running out of spare FX reserves. This is Societe Generale. Let's move on to the currency markets. The euro, 111.93. It's really popped higher of late. Dollar index down a big, 96.59. Japanese yen. Look at that. They've evaporated that move that was Kuroda driven. We're now at 116.82. So I'm staying bullish the yen, though Mr. Kuroda got me out of my position rather. Fortunately, the pound, 145.32. The Aussie, let's have a look at where that is. That's 0.7175. Indian rupee, 67.465. South Korean won 11.94.73, that's had a big rally. Brazilian real 388.97, some ways now below 385. Egyptian pound 782.69, and the rand 15.90. I think it's a sell right now. Dollar index, I think, put up a 1 month chart, very big drop. Now, a lot of people are saying, look, that entire outlook the Fed painted of gradual interest rate rise is not going to happen given the volatility we're seeing in the international markets. I think it's not about that. I think it's about policymakers now realizing China is going to devalue and considering that tightening that's going to come out of that currency move. And I think that's what's hitting all these that's what's hitting the FX market. Euro dollar 1 month chart, we're back at 111.94, 114.50 is the next stop. And Japanese yen, just look at this one month chart. You can see Kuroda got blasted out of the water. Commodity markets, gold has had a massive run, 11.55, all geopolitical and safe haven correlated, and possibly has got further to go. Markets are currently in a well-oiled death spiral, according to Citigroup analysts, and plenty of graphs in that article. Go to Rich Wrap-Up's, click and have a look at the graphs they've posted. But what we're seeing is a massive reversal of capital that was going into oil-producing countries, and that actually, interestingly, these economies will likely experience an aggregate current account deficit for the first time since 1998. That's a big thing. Morgan Stanley, listen to this. Brent crude is expected to average $29 a barrel in the 3 months to December, compared with an estimate for $59 a barrel in a Jan 18 note. So they're really downshifting their expectations. I'll put up a 1 month chart of crude oil. We've had quite a strong bounce after a very steep sell-off, but I don't think we're out of this bear market yet. There are no prizes for predicting who wins Uganda's presidential election on the 18th of February, says Africa Confidential, talking about President Museveni being 30 years in office, 4 victorious elections in the last 20 of them. Knows every trick in the book, yet is still taking no chances, using state funds, intimidating, outlawing the opposition, and mobilizing violent youth are all part of the presidential armory. All this comes on top of his NRM's overwhelming control of the electoral process and an unparalleled ability to mobilize the grassroots. Divided opposition, but saying that he looks as if he's going to get just around 50% of the vote in the first round. There's no, the point is he's not going to lose that election, even if he does. Let me put up a link to his MindSpeak session. If you haven't seen that, do that. I just saw 38,000 people have watched it. And then let me put up a photograph of his hat at MindSpeak. Algeria, who's in charge, asks The Economist. It sounds like a missing person notice. 78-year-old man, wheelchair bound, not seen in public for over 2 years. But this is a description of Algeria's president, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, whose ill health, including 2 strokes in recent years, has led to rumors of a palace coup. Mr. Bouteflika can hardly speak, said to communicate by letter with his ministers, who nevertheless insist that the old man is compos mentis and in charge. But several close associates of the president aren't buying it, having not seen Mr. Bouteflika for over a year. They've demanded a meeting with him, so far to no avail. Missing person is right, they say. Algerian politics is nothing if not murky. And I ask myself, it's pretty surreal and a kind of Yara Dua redux. Let me put up a photograph of Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Interesting piece in Global Research. China's path into Africa blocked. And saying that China's role is simple, facilitating neo-colonialism, with Johannesburg elites like Shelton lubricating the journey by pretending there are no made-in-China African potholes. Saying China's successful development model holds wide appeal in Africa, where states are seeking to escape the poverty trap, but a centralized dictatorship, cheap labor, prohibited from organizing, a mass market still to be indebted beyond salvation, Western consumerism, and several planets worth of resources are fantasies that only weakly disguise the role FOCAC has set for itself. Zimbabwe seeks to restore donor relations to obtain loans. We believe that by June this year, we will have fulfilled our obligations and hopefully be eligible for fresh funding. Chinamasa. Zimbabwe owes multilateral banks about $7.1 billion or 51% of GDP. That's according to the World Bank. Total debts amount to about 10 billion, says Chinamasa. Zimbabwe's economy will grow at 1.5% in 2016. Consumer prices will continue to remain deflationary. That's the World Bank again. They've also announced they will now allow foreign investors to buy stakes of up to 49% in companies listed on the stock exchange. I conclude by saying this is a slew of moves which signal that Zimbabwe might finally be on the cusp of a deal to end its isolation. And a good friend of mine has been representing the IMF down there. I think he's done a good job. According to Africa Confidential, the contract of Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan runs only until local government elections. And in December 2015, I was quite, dumbfounded by President Zuma's behaviour, and I said the markets are not interested in his explanations. They are seeing a South African president who has gone rogue. And I said the scariest part for South Africa is this: he just doesn't get it, but maybe he does, because he's changed his behaviour recently, the last few sessions. Let me put up a photograph of this famous David Van Rooyen. The issue is what was signed in those 4 days. I'll also put up a photograph of President Zuma watching as David Van Rooyen, who was then the incoming finance minister, sworn into office. The South African all-share bounced 2.25% yesterday. It's down 2.1% year-to-date. Dollar rand, well, let's see what happens, but I'd like to be selling it here, frankly. Egyptian pound 783, Egyptian EGX 30 down 11.47% year-to-date. Strong rebound this week. Nigerian all-share still in the doldrums, down 17.89%. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 0.69%. Coming to Kenya, Kenya's flower trade leaving on a jet plane is an article in The Economist. If you come home to a vase full of roses on Valentine's Day in Europe, there will be a good chance they were picked a few days earlier on the shores of Lake Naivasha in Kenya. The fertile Rift Valley soil, warm days and cold nights make for perfect flower growing conditions. Netherlands still dominates the global horticulture industry, but Kenya is digging itself a growing niche. Its cut flower exports increased 12-fold to 137,000 tons between 1988 and 2014. As buyers realized it was cheaper and counterintuitively greener to fly blooms thousands of miles than to heat Dutch greenhouses. I'll put up a photograph of roses ready for export at the Osarium farm in Naivasha. More than 5,000 large depositors with a collapsed Imperial Bank may have to wait longer for the deposits after shareholders move to court to challenge their payout. Put up a photograph of the chairman, Al-Nashir Popat. 21st of December, I wrote about the Teflon shilling and the fact that 5.6% GDP for 2015 and 6 for 2016 is going to look pretty good. And I was explaining why I think the shilling is sending a strong signal. CFC confidence index hit a 13-month high, so that's another bullish signal. The Kenya shilling just above 102. Nairobi all-share down 3.28% year-to-date, but had a strong week until Thursday. Safaricom up 7.26% this week alone. EABL plus 4.96% since releasing its first half earnings. And I wrote this yesterday, and I've been saying that I thought those results deserved a better response. We are now getting it. And I said what was particularly impressive was that EABL had to hurdle soft Tusker, had to wear a billion-shilling hit in South Sudan, but evidently recalibrated their offerings to a lower price point, bigger mass market, and did extremely well by reading that landscape ahead of time. KenGen is plus 18.34% since the 26th of January, emerging from a price disequilibrium. P/E ratio 1.23, still has further to go. And the NSE 20 is down 6.31% year to date. And that informs us of the outperformance as we all show versus the MC20, telling us that people are reaching for big cap stocks. Once again, thank you for stopping by.